Mad scramble as teams clear the track. Pit crews jumping over the wall to leave the cars ready for the restart. Let's hope it's a smooth one this time. We certainly don't need any more of the dramas that we saw 35 minutes ago. There's Peter Brock, beside him George Fury. They're on the front row and were virtually unaffected by that initial scrap. Unaffected except that they've got to back up for this restart.
I wonder whether Murray Carter and Ron Gillard have taken their place in the field. They were involved in an incident at the top of the mountain. 2-minute board has gone up. So the driver's revving the engines, but it's not warming the tyres.
There's Dick Johnson waiting to start. He'll be out of position number 3. And starting alongside of him is Alan Grice in the Roadways Commodore V8, car number 6.
Missing a car 12, the Jag of Tom Walkinshaw, car 34, the Camaro of Tesorero, and car 77, the Toyota Supra of Peter Williamson.
The roar of the engine swelling as the time approaches when they'll make their way again down pit straight.
Actually, the officials have allowed Greg Hansford in the 42 car just to reverse back a little.
He's moved one grid position back.
Yes.
And Masterton has moved over and is starting in the centre of the track to avoid the wet patch.
Well, they're going to have cement dust blowing up everywhere and a wet patch on top of it. That's going to be pretty tricky.
With the cement dust, it's not going to be much fun at the rear of the field.
It's not going to be at all.
1-minute board. So it starts all over again.
There's the view inside the cockpit with Alan Grice in the Roadways Commodore. Just ahead of him on the grid is Peter Brock, and on pole position for the restart of the great race is George Fury in the Nissan Turbo.
Half a minute. Everybody's caught the fever now. It couldn't possibly happen again. Maybe one or two will exercise a little more care this time.
10 seconds away from the start of the 1984 Great Race, Part 2. They're racing and getting away smartly as Peter Brock on the outside. Fury miffed the start completely, and Johnson ranges up on the inside to take over second place as they run to the first corner. Tagging him is Alan Grice, and then Fury getting into stride. The BMW is out wide, and then John Harvey making a good start as well as they stream up Mountain Straight. And there's the view of the entire field as it heads off for the first time up to the mountain and towards GTX Bend. Over the top and dropping down to the lip, it's Peter Brock in front, Johnson in second, Grice is third, and look at the challenge on back behind them, the black BMW and Alan Moffat already putting pressure there.
Through GTX Bend, coming uphill now, and it's a steep climb up towards the cutting into second gear now, moving up to third. Brock in front, the 05 Commodore Johnson goes through in second place, then Alan Grice. George Fury, boy, is he going to be disappointed about this restart, because he got away really well first time round off pole position, but on the restart blew it badly and is in fourth spot. Alan Moffat hard on his heels in the RX-7. Over the top they come, sweeping through Castrol Curve onto the top of the mountain. Hear the crowd roar. Past Reed Park, on down to McPhillamy, take the left-hand curve. And the top three have opened up just a little bit of a gap over the rest. Brock leading them onto Skyline. Down, off the top they go. Through the dipper into the S's. Line astern. Nobody gets wide here and survives. Jansen, Cullen, McLeod. Through they stream. The big Ford of Brian Callahan in there as well.
Through Forest Elbow and for the first time down Conrod Straight.
And here they come. They'll be looking for speeds of 260 kilometres an hour or more. Peter Brock, Dick Johnson go by. There's Alan Grice now. Fury and Moffat. Into the braking section, down through the gears, and Brock is first on the first lap.
Coming
behind
across
him now is Dickie Johnson.
2 minutes 20.27, the standing lap time for Peter Brock.
Across the strike, Hardie still up on the tail of Moffat, and Fury keeping the pressure on as well. In fact, Fury gaining a little on Grice. There's the race leader, Peter Brock, heading up Mountain Straight again, as Dick Johnson not that far back behind him at the green Palmer Tube Mills Falcon. They drop into this lip before they head up to GTX corner. About 2 car lengths the distance from Brock to Johnson, 5 then back to Alan Grice. And the steep climb up towards the mountain. Just look at the climb now, and they are under full pressure and power. And we join Dick Johnson with Race Cam following the race leader in 2nd position at the moment, and we'll follow him across the top of the mountain. There's Brock just ahead of him.
Great pictures coming out of the 17 Falcon. And listen to that deep-throated roar of the engine. The big V8 as he sets out in pursuit of Moffat. And I'll tell you what, he's going to have to pull something out because Moffat is moving away. Brock, rather, is moving away. Moffat, of course, back in 4th spot in the Mazda RX-7. Grice, hot on Dickie Johnson's tail, in 3rd place. But the Dayglow pink and white Commodore of Peter Brock is up front. Look at the hands working at the wheel. Dick Johnson throwing the big car down off the top of the mountain through the S's, heading down to Forest Elbow once more. And in pursuit of the race leader, Peter Brock. And Brock is exactly where I think he'd like to be.
Dick Johnson settling himself back into the chair, and those hands sitting in the 10-2 position, and lines himself up on the left-hand side of Conrod Straight in pursuit of Peter Brock.
Well, Brock has got a great start. There you can see the gap. Doesn't need for us to explain. Johnson trying to stay in touch with him, and Grice probably about 4 car lengths back behind Dick Johnson. And behind Grice, of course, keeping the pressure on him is Alan Moffat.
Early pit stop for car 64, the Capri Components entry, Laurie Nelson and Peter Jones. Their Mustang has got a problem, and they're the first to call into the pits as Brock gives them the go-by, followed by Dick Johnson coming up again on the left-hander at Hell Corner. By gee, they're about 80 metres ahead now of Grice. Then comes Moffat, and Harvey and Fury are really having a ding-dong in behind that pair.
Following Dick Johnson up Mountain Straight, and you can see the gap widening between himself and Peter Brock. Peter Brock, it's just so easy for this man. Well, he makes it look easy.
I tell you what, the hard charger is the 2nd dealer team car of John Harvey. There goes Brock and Johnson. Here they come. Climbing up again through Wilco Cutting. A little wide there, Peter Brock. Pushing it hard. Whew, is he ever?
Well, Brock goes across the top of the mountain, trying to increase that lead, getting plenty of support up there from the Commodore fans who have camped up there on the mountain for the last 3 or 4 days. That'll give you an idea of the gap back to Johnson. It's opening. Here he comes down through the right-hander, Dipper, and there's Johnson about 4 car lengths back behind him. So at this stage, Peter Brock leads the James Hardie 1000 for 1984. We'll take a break and return live at Mount Panorama, Bathurst. Welcome back to Mount Panorama at Bathurst. There's the sight as the cars wind their way off the top of the mountain and back down onto Conrod Straight. This is where we're having a great scrap at the moment. Back in fourth spot is John Hardie. Right behind him, of course, is George Fury. And they're going down now towards the left-hander at the end of the straight at Murray's Corner. Peter Brock still leads, second place still being held by Dick Johnson of Queensland and Alan Grice in third. That scrap continues between George Fury.
John Hardie, of course, started from 11th position on the reorganised grid with the big Jaguar, and he's moved up to fourth. It's a considerable effort. Masterton and Fury also going through Murray's Corner there, left-hander under the bridge, back onto the pit straight. There's Moffat, Grice in pursuit, then Hardie, the man that's made up so much ground. Couple more casualties in the pits. Car 72, the Toyota Sprinter of John Smith. I see the McLeod Slick 50 Mazda has also called in. Early troubles for those.
We're watching John Hardie as he heads up Mountain Straight again. Hot in pursuit, Steve Masterton. Just ahead of him, Alan Grice. Through GTX Bend. And heading up towards the cutting. I'll change down into about second gear for the cutting. It's quite a sharp curve and it's quite a steep bend.
With the restart of the race, let's check out via our Castrol scoreboard the running positions now, the top 10. After 3 laps, Brock and Perkins lead from the Johnson French car. Moffat is in third place, then Grice in fourth, Fury in fifth. So that gives you an indication of how they are running on the road. 6 held by Harvey and Parsons, then Masterton, the next car, Richards in the BMW, Morris in the RX-7, and then Harrop and Harris in the Commodore.
Here's the view from Alan Grice's car.
And he's got Alan Moffat just in front of him. He's moved up on Moffat. Moffat making steady progress through the field and started past Grice.
Let's see whether or not Moffat can get away from him through these bends here. And now they're on to Conrod. Let's see whether or not Alan Grice can pick him up with a big V8 power. Doesn't look like it so far. Now he starts to close a little. Down they come to the first hump. Past Jimmy Windsor's place.
Alan Grice, of course, gets a pretty good idea of his own lap times because sitting on the dashboard on the left-hand side there, you can see a little counter. So he knows just how well he's going.
On the tail, out he pulls. Can he make it? Under brakes as they go under this bridge. No, he decides I can't. And Moffat says, no, I'm going to take that line anyway, pal.
We have a good scrap going here between Alan Moffat and Alan Grice. They come along pit straight again. And already passing the 73 Ignis entry as they go up to the left-hander at Hell Corner.
I mentioned 72 was in the pits. John Smith in the Toyota Sprinter. He's about to rejoin the race. After 3 laps, he had something wrong with his fuel system and also a flat battery. Better believe that after only 3 laps. Well, we haven't got a flat battery. We've got a lot more to come when we return to Mount Panorama. Peter Brock is the pilot in 05, the Commodore, in the great race, already in amongst the traffic, lapping slower cars as he spears around the mountain once more, up through the cutting. And driving a beautiful race in the early stages, put the power down, opened up a gap. Catch me if you can. And if anybody can defy them, he can. He's done it before. He knows the routine. And down in the dealer team pit at the moment, it's all smiles. Peter Jeffrey Brock. Let's take a look at some of the background on this man. Steeped in motor racing. 39. I guess he's getting into the veteran category. He's won 7 James Hardies. And when he's not out here going crazy on the racetrack, he likes to throw a line and take it easy. Aussie rules fan, why not? How could he come from Melbourne and not be an Aussie rules fanatic? His record, well, Sandown Enduro, 9 times out of 11 races. Australian Touring Car Championship, sure, 3 times. The Repco Round Australia Trial 79. Hates bosses. Well, he's his own boss. Biggest influence, Harry Firth. Well, hasn't Harry been a big influence on a lot of them?
He certainly has. Brock at this stage with a good lead, which he's building up as he comes down Conrod straight towards Murray's Corner. Through the gears, beaten for pole position by George Fury. But in front and getting a big reception here from obviously many thousands of Commodore fans at the mountain today.
He's making his way along pit straight, and already there are a few in the pits. One of them is the McLeod Bailey Slick 50 Mazda, which has got some fuel problems, no fuel pressure in fact. So that's a bad start for them.
Yes, they've been there for about 2 laps, so I don't hold out much hope for their chances from here. Car 20, the Jim Keogh entry is there as well, in the pits, I mean. Brock with a good lead. Now let's leave him there and get another view of the great race, the James Hardie 1000. Inside the left front headlight of the BMW, driven by Denny Hulme and Prince Leopold of Bavaria. Oh, what a sight this is. Hello, he's had a bit of a nudge himself. Up goes the cover. Here's a nudge.
Car number 75, that's Laurie Hazelton, who is up at the top of the mountain. And he's also had problems with the car, one of the cars that were allowed in the race, and that of course is Chris Heyer and the Audi. Now they've had a coming together just off the sand trap.
Narrows the road somewhat, doesn't it?
It does through there, so the flags are out. Leader coming through now. You'll be able to gauge the distance back from the leader to Dick Johnson. There's Johnson running second on the road at the moment.
Takes their line completely, in fact. So it's going to slow everybody down through there.
Here comes Alan Moffat in the Mazda RX-7. He's running in 3rd place. Alan Grice is in 4th. 5th spot held by Steve Masterton. 6th is John Harvey. 7th is George Fury. There's the Alpha Group A car already going down through there. They're trying to get those 2 cars out of that position.
That spot there, of course, is absolutely blind to the drivers coming off the top of the mountain. They cannot see until they're right on it. But fortunately, of course, there is a big set of flashing amber lights set up right on the crest at Skyline that warns drivers of impending trouble. And so both of them are out of the way. That's great.
75, Laurie Hazelton gets underway in the Capri, and here we have car number 36 coming into the pit area. That's Steve Harrington, keeping in mind that they started that car just to make sure that Alan Grice didn't have any problems.
Well, they've got the engine is sounding absolutely dreadful, as we understand, Mike, and it's going to be out of the race. They're going to withdraw it right now. So bad news for that team, but of course they've still got the Grice machine circulating, and very quickly. So let's have a look now, though, at that little dingle we saw at the top of the mountain just a few moments ago.
Now, how did they manage to get stuck in there against that?
Oh, yes.
That's how it happened.
A little tap on the side, then Hazelton, the Capri, comes heading across, and boom! Chris Heyer meets him, going through, and he's against the guardrail. That was bad luck indeed for Heyer. He was the meat in the sandwich, so to speak. 75 trying to get underway. It's a very tight corner indeed up there. But fortunately, they've been able to move both cars. Steve Harrington has completed his stint in the backup car, 36, and he's with Colin Young.
Steve, you started the race in the second car, but it was always the intention to retire it.
That's right, Colin. As you saw by the first lap this time, it's an insurance that we do start two cars so that if something does happen to one of them, we are able to continue on with the other. We just withdrew the car then as planned.
You've just come in from your driving stint. Have you heard from Alan Grice on the two-way? Is he going okay?
No, I've just got here. I don't even know where he's running at the moment.
Okay, that's the scene in the Alan Grice. Stephen Harrington pits. Alan Grice still running out in car number 6, and it's back to Mike Raymond.
Thank you, Colin, and Stephen Harrington. There's Gricey. Down the field a little. Still tailing, coming up on a car that he'll be putting a lap on. That looks like the Chris Clearahan Mazda RX-7. And we say goodbye to our New Zealand viewers at this stage. We'll catch them up later in the telecast. So Grice heads off down Conrod Straight. Peter Brock still the race leader. Dick Johnson in second place, and Alan Moffat very highly placed, running in third in the Mazda RX-7.
The hands of Alan Grice at work on the wheel. Well, they're not doing too much work at the moment, but now down through the gears.
Tell you what, the man who needs to do some work is George Fury. After missing the start of the race, he's been shuffled back.
Okay.
A little.
And Harvey.
Grice and Harvey side by side. There goes Harves. He's got by him. And Fury is also making ground again now. He's right in behind Alan Grice. Whether or not he could take him up the mountain, I rather doubt. Grice, oh, he's attempting to reel Harvey in again, but there's slower traffic coming up on the left. Harvey takes advantage of it. Quite right. Grice on his hammer. Coming up to GTX. They'll slow down here. Grice tries to get under. Almost alongside, but Harvey says, no, you don't. And Grice cannot afford to hesitate a fraction here because he's got George Fury right behind him, and across the top of the mountain, it's going to be pretty quick.
Now through the cutting. And Grice. Can he catch this man Harvey? Both the Commodores of the Holden dealer team running so well. Grice, who was running brilliantly himself early in the week, looked like he might be the man to sit on pole position, but he was pipped by a couple.
Well, Grice and Johnson have got a similar view at the moment, haven't they? Johnson running in behind Peter Brock, Grice running in behind John Harvey.
And they're coming up on the Group A BMW, which they'll catch up shortly down through this section of the course. Grice closes up here on Harvey.
And he's got his eye in the rearview mirror as well, because Fury in the Nissan Bluebird is parked right in behind him. He'll breathe a little easier when he hits Conrod Straight, of course. He'll have the legs down there.
Through Forest Elbow, we'll see if Grice can make on Harvey as they come onto Conrod Straight.
Theoretically, their speeds should be pretty well identical over the first hump, and Grice just can't seem to make much impression on Harvey. Gathering him in a little, pulls out to the right. Slipstreaming him obviously before. Has he got enough to go past under brakes? No, he's got to back off as they negotiate Murray's corner.
This is a real contest, isn't it? Great stuff.
Grice still sitting here on the tail, but he'll have a crack at Harvey on the run-up.
Oh, Fury!
Oh, Fury has
Brilliant!
them.
Harvey's off.
Harvey has gone off on the right-hander, bounced off the wall. Fury arrived, excuse me, boys, and he went through the pair of them.
Well, I don't know whether they came together there or not, but it was a brilliant maneuver by Fury.
Was it co-engineered with Alan Grice, I think?
We're back with Grice, panning out the back to see if we can spot John Harvey catching. We might take a look and see exactly what happened. Here we were, travelling behind Harvey. Now, Harvey's got the line for the corner, then all of a sudden...
There's Fury.
Oh, George through the tail. And he was sideways. Yeah, that's thrown Grice offline. and to say nothing about John Harvey. Well, a very determined drive coming back through the pack to George Fury.
Well, he was a bit miffed about missing the start, George Fury, and he's doing his very best right now to make ground on the race leaders. Of course, it's 0-5. Peter Brock highballing in front from Dick Johnson at this stage of the great race. We'll see if it's the same way when we come back after this break. Welcome back to the race within the race at the James Hardie 1000 for 1984, because as we zero in coming down to the bottom of Conrod Straight, you're going to see a little unfamiliar shape. That is a Rover, and it leads the Group A category, car 61, with the British pair Jeff Allen and Armin Hahn sharing the driving in this. And if you look just a little further back, about 4 spaces back, in fact, you'll see car number 60, the second of the Rover entries, Steve Soper and Ron Dixon. The pair of Rovers dominating the Group A category at the present time, as was expected. Whether or not it pans out that way at the end of the day remains to be seen. But of course, Australia going to Group A for touring cars entirely next year, and it's important that we keep track of what takes place here in the great race of 84 with these cars.
Rovers during the week were setting times around about 2 or 3 seconds quicker than any of the other Group A vehicles. So we were expecting that today they'd be leading that class.
So action behind the pits too. While we look at the Rover going round, there is a problem with the Bobby Morris and Jones car at the back of the pits. Oh boy, yes, a diff change, and looks like they've had some scrapes of their own. You can see the guys working under the car frantically. Barry Jones, Bobby Morris, bitter disappointment for them in the checkered flag Ghostbusters entry. These were the cars that turned on the most unusual launch of the week here at Bathurst. Changing a gearbox, in fact. Here we are back on top of the mountain now with the Rover Vitesse 61. Jeff Allen at the wheel. And as I said, you want a different view of the race. Let's get back to car 62, the BMW of Denny Hulme. And Prince Leopold von Bayern.
It's another Group A car, and it's probably, after the Rovers, one of the quickest. And that is a headlight eye view of the top of the mountain.
Yeah, we had to leave this before because of another incident, but let's stick with it now and enjoy the ride. Big V8 slips by across the top. Stand by as we come off Skyline. We're going to learn about thrills and spills. A wild ride. Through the elbow. On to Conrod Straight. Denny Halm, the New Zealander, veteran, great experience. Pulls out the big ones. Oh, what a nice man. Thank you very much. The view was getting just a little dirty there. That's cleared it up marvelously. Thanks very much, Denny. And that's the view you're going to get.
Well, that's a way of showing you how we'll keep the bugs off the screen, hopefully, during the course of the telecast. Let's check out our Castrol scoreboard now. This is the top runners in Group A. Jeff Allen and Hahn in first place in the Rover. The Rover's 1-2, Sopran Dixon. Then, of course, Denny Holman, Prince Leopold back there in third place. Barry Seaton and Don Smith in the Mustang, and Bond and Costanzo in the Alpha GTV.
Oh, Bo Seaton got the wheel back on then.
Yes, he has. That's updating you on the Castrol scoreboard. Group A, Australia's national category for touring car racing next year, and the Rovers looking good in the Mobile Super Drop entries, 1-2 at this stage.
If you want to know how many laps there are to go in the race, I'll tell you, 150. We haven't really got underway yet. It's going to be a long day. Well, let's check what's happened so far in the great race. Of course, dramas at the start today.
Updating the James Hardie 1000 into our number 1. Of course, there was the starting line incident. Tom Walkingshaw never really got firing. One who did, though, was Alan Moffat. He launched himself off the side of Steve Masterton's car, and a complete restart was called for the event. Walkingshaw was then joined by Peter Williamson and the Camaro, and the track was completely blocked. There's the damage. Walkinshaw's car number 12, the Jaguar. Peter Williamson's 77. And the officials, of course, calling a half-hour stay of proceedings. Williamson said it all. His new Group A car smashed to pieces.
Slightly injured. He accidentally bit his tongue in that impact. He was bleeding from the mouth, but damaged pride more than anything. And of course, there's the Murray Carter RX-7, which came off the road at the top of the circuit on that first lap.
The Camaro, number 34, was put back on the trailer. So too was Williamson's. The drivers awaited the restart, and at the start, Fury miffed the start, as you can see. Then, of course, Peter Brock launching himself up into the lead. Queensland's Dick Johnson was hot on his trail, and Grice moved to third in the first corner.
Fury was back to fourth. They headed up the mountain for the first time.
As the field streamed up towards the mountain and through the cutting, Johnson was maintaining some ground on Peter Brock. However, after 5 or 6 laps, Brock started to stretch his lead. Grice was holding third, but Alan Moffat passed him. Grice tried to fight back on the outside of Moffat, but Moffat was making every post a winner, dropping down into the braking area and declaring on the V8s. He's got a Mazda, he thinks, that'll go the 1,000 Ks at their speed. Brock, meantime, was stretching his lead, moving away just as the incident occurred with Hazelton and Chris Heyer, who came together. They didn't really want to, and it was just opposite the sand trap at the top of the mountain. Harrington withdrew the second Roadways car to take over as co-driver for Alan Grice, and then George Fury arrived, the old ham and the sandwich trick. Out goes John Harvey into the rough, and advancing one spot was George Fury. Harvey rejoined, but he wasn't happy.
That incident shuffled Johnny Hardie back to 7th spot on the track, and he'd be very, very annoyed about that indeed.
This is the view from Alan Grice's car with race cam aboard. Sorry, Dick Johnson. No, Alan Grice. It is Alan Grice.
All right.
Yes, well, he has it all to do. The man who set the pace early this week, I think he would be very, very concerned, and his team should be at this stage. A little sideways coming off that corner. However, the race still has a long way to go. We'll take a break and return with more live action of the James Hardie 1000.
Cars barrel by the pit entry and take the left-hander at Murray's Corner. Peter Brock continues to lead the race in 0.5, the dealer team Commodore. The gap back to him in the second place getter, Dick Johnson, is 10.21 seconds, and at these speeds, that's a fair distance.
Johnson still in second spot. Alan Moffat would be delighted to be running third, and his car running perfectly after that shunt earlier.
I bet he's mindful of the fact that Steve Masterton's behind him.
I'll bet he is. Then back behind them, of course, is Steve Masterton, who has improved. Grice dropping back, then George Fury. John Harving in 25, then number 42 being the next place driver, Greg Hansford, in the RX-7, then, of course, number 8.
It's Warren Cullen and Alan Jones' car. There it is, in fact. Kmart entry just heading up Mountain Straight.
The number 8 car in 9th position.
Rounding off the top 10, of course, Jim Richards of New Zealand in the BMW.
Alan Jones has been very low profile at Bathurst this year, hasn't he?
Well, I think he probably has nightmares of his last visit to Bathurst when the team wasn't fully prepared. That time, of course, he was racing Formula One in his final season.
It's a bit tough when the spotlight's on you, and then through no fault of your own, you can't produce the goods. I guess, you know, he's gone the other way this time and tried to keep out of the limelight.
Well, they've got a beautifully prepared car. That's the car that we're following at the moment, the Kmart entry, V8 Commodore, driven today by Warren Cullen and Alan Jones. It's running 9th on the track at the moment. Just ahead of it is Greg Hansford in car number 42. We have something happening up the top of the mountain, and Steve Masterton apparently has just gone into the wall on the rundown, I think, to Forest Elbow. That is not good news for the Masterton Homes 2WS race team. There has been a coming together, as you can see there. The car has gone across into the wall, into the earth embankment.
Smoke and steam coming from the front of the car. So
isn't this desperate stuff too? The two Rovers go through.
Not much warning for any of the drivers.
There's Steve Masterton stepping out of the car, so he's had a very, very heavy clout.
Looks a bit shaky on it too.
He walks away from the accident, so he's hit the embankment very hard indeed there. Uses the wall just to steady himself and contemplate what went wrong.
Not a good place to stay around, though. Well, the big Falcon, the Masterton Homes entry, and his dad, Jimmy Masterton, who's backed him all the way with this effort. Oh, look.
That says it all.
Oh, they're desolate, devastated. What a disappointment. Bruce Stewart, their co-driver, is not going to see the race today.
They had made no definite plans about Group A next year. They wanted to make the last one for Group C their biggest, and it's all ended rather tragically for them after only at 17 laps.
Well, that's the scene on the drop down into Forest Elbow. The cars, as you can see, they're going to have a problem. They're trying to remove that car too if they block the course there. But I would think the pickup trucks have gone out. There's Jim Masterton, Steve's dad, consulting with Bruce Stewart. That's not good news for them because they throw a lot into their motor racing. Pat Purcell, the chief mechanic, his mentor John Shepherd would know exactly how he feels. John, of course, tutored young Pat Purcell, brought him up to be one of Australia's top race car mechanics. There's Steve. He's okay. He's regained his composure. He's gone into the embankment there and given it a fairly good clout.
So I think when he popped out of his car, he was more shaken than anything else. He was breathing pretty heavily and unsteady on his feet. But
Julie Masterton, Steve's wife, obviously upset, but thankful in the knowledge that he's okay. Looking just a little bit of a loss there as to what to do. She can't console him, offer any assistance. She's stuck right down here at the bottom of the mountain. Steve's sitting up there at the top, and he's resigned to the fact that he's not going any further today.
Well, the James Hardie for 1984 stops for Steve Masterton. He takes time out. There's the car.
The BMW slides by.
But it's a big Falcon, and it's blocking at least half the track there as the Rovers go by again.
Yes, right on the elbow. Right on the entry to the elbow.
And that's going to be a major headache for the track officials to remove that without blocking the track further. Crowd gathered nearby. Trying to fathom just how that accident happened. Looks like that front right wheel. It's down, and there's Steve Masterton, a disappointed man. Just gathering his thoughts and thinking, well, what could have been? The race started when so it ends for Steve Masterton.
There's car number 20, Jim Keogh.
Second time in.
Yes, that's not good news for their team. Let's check out what's happening in the pit area. We'll go down to Colin Young.
With me is Bruce Stewart, co-driver to Steve Masterton. Bruce, Steve looks pretty disappointed up on the mountain.
Yes, I know how he feels because the boys have put a lot of work in this, and the car's been really going well, and we thought we were on top of it all, but with a bit of a mix-up in the first lap and the start of the first race, he got a good bump, and I think something must have happened then. It's either fractured a ball joint or got broken, but they're bringing it back now, and we're going to try and get it going and get out there as soon as we can.
So you hope to finish the race?
Yeah, we sure do. We hope to finish the race. It's a long day yet to go, and we're going to be out there as soon as we can.
Okay, Steve Masterton out on top of the mountain, but hoping to finish. Back to Mike Raymond.
Thank you, Colin Young. Jim Keogh, I would think, disappointed at this stage. There's our race leader, though. There's no doubt about him whatsoever, and he's just in front. Put a lap on Brian Callaghan in the Callaghan Pavers V8 Falcon. Co-driving with him today, two of the boys from the Ovals, Brian Callaghan and Barry Graham. They head off up the mountain, and Peter Perfect is in fact just that. He continues to lead the great race. There's that truck going up to pick up Steve Masterton's car.
When it gets there, it's going to create some traffic problems. Let's hope that they can get rid of the Masterton car without causing other problems, but We're watching Peter Brock right now as he heads through the cutting, working furiously at that wheel and takes it very wide. Up now towards the top of the mountain. And he may not have been sitting on pole position, but he's quicker than anybody right now. King of the mountain, that title certainly suits him today. At least in the early stages of the 84 James Hardie. Across Skyline now.
Where is Alan Moffat?
Well, I'd say, judging the last time he went past here, he was off the pace just a little, and the reports that we have is that he's headed for the pits. It's not too much drama for Alan because he still has his second car out there, and keeping in mind either Alan had to pit and park the car, or Greg Hansford had to pit and park, because you have two drivers entered against two cars.
Well, Hansford's out there still circulating in 6th place, so they're still looking pretty reasonable.
Well, Hansford's doing the job at the moment. Still running strongly there on the track. Brock leading from car number 17, Dick Johnson. 3rd place held down by Alan Grice in car number 6. 4th place to George Fury in car number 15. Then 5th to John Harvey in car number 25. Greg Hansford is 6th. Then, of course, the Warren Cullen car coming up 1 spot, followed by the BMW of Jim Richards. Then back behind them, the Peter Jansen, Gary Rogers entry. And rounding off the top 10 at the moment is, of course, Terry Finnegan. The incident on the run down to Forest Elbow, we've also picked up for you via our race cam. And we'll play that in for you now to see what we can discover out of that. Out of Alan Grice's car coming down. Whoops. There is smoke and dust. And there's Steve Masterton, by the look of it, going off the course and crash, and almost getting Grice on the way back.
No indication, really, of what caused it. He was already on his way by the time Alan Grice came over the lip and round the curve. You could see the dust flying already, so obviously he had already had some encounter with the wall or the side of the track.
Well, I don't know. I think I spotted a slower car in there. I don't know if it was a car that they were putting a lap on. Just have a look again. Now, the incident has just occurred there. Trying to make out whether or not that is a Capri just in front. On the right there. Yes, it is. That's the Capri that was in the problem earlier. And that's where Steve Masterton has come to contact with. So what actually happened, we couldn't pick up for you, but that's as close as you can get to seeing something happen on race cam. Bad luck indeed. It's not going to assist Steve Masterton to look at the replays all day long. But at least an anxious moment. So how lucky was Alan Grice? It only needed the car to bounce out, and he would have caught Grice on the way through. So there's plenty of drama, and it's continuing in the great race. The 1984 James Hardie 1000 from Mount Panorama at Bathurst. Welcome back to the James Hardie 1000. Here's a fellow, a young man in a hurry, a fellow who knows this course pretty well indeed. He's ridden round here quicker on 2 wheels than he has most times on 4, and that's Greg Hansford of Queensland, and doing a steady job at this moment in the Alan Moffat Mazda RX-7, the second car. 6th at the moment, and driving superbly. He's been the talk of Mount Panorama all week, Greg Hansford. I think probably young Harry's the most underrated touring car driver in Australia, and he's done so well. He's coming down now past the Steve Masterton 2WS V8 Falcon that's been picked up by the vehicle there, but he's doing the job that's asked of him. He's done well in the Endurance Championship races. Alan Moffat, of course, in the past has always gone for overseas drivers to come to Bathurst and partner him. But I think he's found a rare talent in young Greg Hansford. Quite affable, and he has a big future ahead of him in touring car racing, and I believe international touring car championship racing. Okay, with the race well and truly into the first hour or so, let's take a look at how they are all running on the road as we update our Castrol scoreboard.
Holding down first place, Peter Brock and Larry Perkins, their car, the 05 Commodore, then Dick Johnson in 17, Alan Grice and Steve Harrington, number 6. In 15, George Fury. 25 is John Harvey and David Parsons. 6th place is the 42 Mazda. 8 is Warren Cullen, Alan Jones. 31, the BMW of Jim Richards. Peter Jansen in the number 3 Commodore, and then Barry Lawrence in the 28 Commodore. Number 11, Terry Finnegan. Number 9, Ron Harris. 14, English and Gulson. 29, Jones and Hopwood. 47, Callaghan and Graham.
So there you had the Castrol scoreboard, a complete rundown, and we'll be doing that through the day for all those people throughout Australia, New Zealand, in fact across the world, wanting to follow your favourite driver. On the track at the moment, we're following Greg Hansford, and Greg, of course, we've mentioned before how well he's doing. Let's take a look at what makes up the racer that we know as Greg Hansford. 32 years of age, from Brisbane, loves tennis, fishing, shooting. He's been in touring car racing for 2 years in the RX-7 with Alan Moffat, running in Group C. He's been a regular here at Easter since he went touring car racing. And motorcycles, of course, were Greg's big go for 12 years, winning many Grand Prix races. Winner at Daytona, the 178. Just look at that career record. Doesn't like over-officious officials. That's Greg Hansford, one of the young lions of touring car racing here in Australia. Here he is coming up into some traffic here, blue flag waving as he goes scooting through. Marshall's car still on the circuit to warn drivers about the Masterton Holmes V8 Falcon that's still being picked up by the tender vehicle on the approach to Forest Elbow. There they are. They've got the car just about lined up to drop onto the quick lift tray. And I think there'll be a lot of drivers happy when that's taken back to the pits.
I was going to say, it's a bit of a misnomer, isn't it? Quick lift. There'll be a few drivers out there that'll be cursing every time they slip by there because, well, they've been in that position now for about the last 5 laps. Cars streaming through. Peter Brock continues to lead. Dick Johnson in second place, then Alan Grice, George Fury, John Hardie, and Greg Hansford. Of course, all the Moffat Mazda team hopes now pinned on the car 42, and of course the second Roadways Grice entry also has been parked, so they're relying on number 6. Here's Dick Johnson, the Queenslander, in car 17, the big green Falcon.
Well, Dick's running second on the road at the moment. Dick Johnson, for viewers around Australia, it's good morning to you from Mike Raymond. We'll be taking commentary from Dick in about 30 seconds as soon as we get him over the top of the mountain and down into Conrod Straight.
Just under 10 seconds in arrears from Peter Brock is Dick Johnson, and then it's 29 seconds back to Alan Grice in third place. Dick coming up hard on the heels of one of the Group A Rovers.
Well, he tried to pull that, but oh, what a sight coming over the hill.
Yes, he suddenly realised that Masterton's car was just round the corner and said, whoops, now we'll do it.
Okay, Johnson to the outside and now runs down the straight. Okay.
Come again? Okay.
Thank you, Dick Johnson. Good morning to you.
Dick Johnson, Gary Wilkinson here. How you going, pal?
I'm just fine, mate. Just fine.
Yeah, it's a lot better than a lot of other people.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's been a rate of attrition.
That must be pretty dicey up the top of the elbow, Dick, where Steve Masterton's car has been parked.
It certainly is, especially when you get caught up behind some of these slow guys. They're bloody hopeless down the hill, some of them guys.
Restart didn't bother you, Dick?
Sorry again?
The restart didn't bother you?
I go into place.
Well, what's the race plan at this stage, Dick? You're second on the road behind Peter Brock.
Well, we'll just keep cranking on the way we're going for a while. The car can cop this sort of treatment all day, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. But I'm quite pleased with the way the car's going. I probably made a wrong choice of tyres. I didn't really expect it to get so damn hot out here, but I suppose when I have my first pit stop, we can change to the right one. These ones are just having a bit of a slip and a slide.
Okay, Dick, thanks very much. We'll come back to you a little later on as we now pick up on the pit stop, number 42. It's Greg Hansford coming in through the maze, the new pit entrance road. We do expect there could be a driver change with Alan Moffat stepping into the car now that Moffat has the 43 car out of competition. Here's the pit activity.
No sign of Alan Moffat.
Hansford staying with the car.
And a
very
lightning quick pit stop too. Alan Horsley would be delighted with that. Now they come along the speed humps in the pits. Guaranteed to shake your teeth loose. And the quick pit stop for Greg Hansford. He's back on the track. I don't think he's dropped a spot, and he is looking good in the James Hardie 1000. More action when we return to the track. Welcome back to the James Hardie 1000. It looks like the crash crew have finally started to get on top of the job of getting the Masterton Holmes 2WS Ford Falcon of young Steve Masterton's up on top and heading back to the pit area. It is not the best place in the world to park. And Steve Masterton, of course, is only one of a number of retirements. Let's check it out in our pit report.
Well, Willow is gone, and Walkinshaw and Tesorero. And then, of course, they went in the pile-up at the start, and on the first lap, exit Murray Carter as well. The Grice Harrington second car has been retired. Masterton in the wall, up at the elbow, and also out of the race. 43 has gone, the Moffat Mazda, but of course they've still got Hansford out there circulating in 42, and their entire effort's going to be concentrated there from now on.
Our thanks to Digital, of course, who are providing us with our service here at Mount Panorama this year. There's car number 6. That is the Roadways Commodore, driven by Alan Grice, and that at the moment is running in 3rd on the road behind Peter Brock and, of course, Dick Johnson. Behind Alan Grice, George Fury, John Harvey, Warren Cullen, Jim Richards, Greg Hansford, then of course Peter Jansen and Gary Rogers. And rounding off the top 10 in car number 28 is Barry Lawrence and Jeff Russell. We have 2 race cam units, of course, for this year's great race, and one of our commentators, one of Australia's most forceful drivers, is, of course, Alan Grice, and he's looking pretty good at this stage, running 3rd on the road. I think he would agree with me.
It's a bit busy out here, doesn't it, Mike?
Alan, thanks very much. Thanks for joining us. We're following you around Mount Panorama. We have a wide international audience this year with viewers throughout England, the United States and New Zealand. Would you like to explain to them just how busy you are?
Yeah, well, I've got a couple of hassles. I started with an engine that wasn't all that, make up your mind, thank you. Wasn't all that strong. But as the race has gone on, it's freed up a fair bit. So I think that'll come right. But we've also made a different choice on tyres to anyone else. Just have a look and see where this truck is for a second. Oh no, wait, right. We've also made a different choice of tyres, which has handicapped us in the first few laps. But hopefully we will have made the right choice. We're holding a gap on Brock at the moment, and the object right at the moment is just to hang on to him and don't let him get him away.
Yes, well, we were talking to Dick Johnson only a short while ago, and he said the same problem, that maybe he made the incorrect choice of tyres.
Well, I hope you're right. But we were slower than we'd wanted to be early, but I've been able to maintain a pretty steady pace since. To do it, I've had to change my driving style a bit. I've got to punch the car across curbs to stop it from understeering, but and then get a bit of tail out like that. But anyway, that's what they pay me for, and we're still holding the times, and we're holding the same sort of gap and picking Brock up just a bit, so all we can do is hang in there and try and avoid all this slow traffic.
Alan, for the viewers watching our telecast overseas this year, perhaps you might like to talk them around the circuit and exactly what you're doing for a lap at Mount Panorama.
Well, this is an important one because it's such a steep hill. Hills don't tend to come across in the right perspective on TV, but believe me, this is awful steep. Back to second for the cutting. Now the car's understeering, so I've got to throw it in and boot it out like that. But still, as I said, that's what they pay me for, second to third. And this is about the most interesting and quickest series of corners in Australia. With this sort of car, we're doing, I guess, 130 mile an hour on 3 and 2 wheels. And you tend to be a bit busy. This is Skyline that's rather daunting for the overseas drivers into the Esters. Then the dipper where she goes up on 2 again. Is he going to do the right thing? Has he seen me? Yes, he has. This one I'm having a lot of trouble with. I forgot about that, but that's okay. I forgot about that rubbish on the right there, but the only thing you do when you do that is just over slow, pick up the situation and carry on. So we haven't lost many revs. We wouldn't have lost any time on that. And this is Conrad, we just flew once there. There's another fly down at the bottom here where the car comes off the ground, but if you get right over the left, there, it doesn't fly. Now this is a fly. Get a bit of buffeting from these cars. He's going to Bathurst, probably got a bit thirsty.
Alan, there was some controversy about your team and also the Moffat team entering 2 cars. As it's turned out, the decision was the right one for Alan's team after being involved in that accident. They're back to 1 car, and you're back in the same situation now.
Yes, well, it was never intended to be a smart or clever move, just common sense. We both have 2 very good motor cars, and we both chose to take out insurance. Now, Moffat's collected on his premium, hadn't he?
Yes.
But, you know, it's a shame the organisers elected to have a bun fight with us rather than sort it out. We had to go to the stewards, but that's the name of the game, and there's dollars involved, and a lot of men that all want to win the same race.
Tell me this, Alan, what does the James Hardie 1000 mean to Alan Grice?
Oh, it's a Sunday normally in October when I come out and get terribly sweaty and try and beat all these other turkeys at doing something that we all do pretty good.
Does this race mean something more to you than any other race?
Yes, certainly. This is the Melbourne Cup. You can be last all year and come last and win this one and you're a hero. And you can win everything all year and come last here and be a mug. So that's how much it means.
Well, thank you for allowing us to invade your privacy in the cockpit. We'll let you get back with your mind on the job. Thank you for those very gracious comments.
Okay, Mike. We'll talk to you later on.
Okay, buddy. Thanks very much. Alan Grice, driving with Racecam, one of Australia's top touring car drivers, and he's running strong in this field.
Yes, and a great talker too is Gricey. And I tell you what, he's talking about being a mug. He's no mug. He knows exactly what he's doing out there.
Watching the cars ascend the mountain. It's a stage of the circuit where power is so important. That's one of the smaller cars, the Exit Turbo of the Nissan team, which is posting remarkable times. It's around about 6 or 7 seconds quicker than it was last year.
They're in 19th position on the track, car number 16. Christine Gibson and young Glenn Seaton, Barry Seaton's son, youngest driver in the race. He's only 19. They're sharing the drive in this car. As I said, they're in 19th position, but they've covered 27 laps, and they're only a lap and a half down on the race leader. So it's a great performance, and young Glenn Seaton was posting really sizzling times, as Steve Rabidit said, in qualifying here. So keep an eye on this car as the race continues. The great race, the James Hardie. Whoa, one of the Rovers is in the wall. Car 60, Steve Soper and Ron Dixon's entry. Oh, the Group A lead. They were running second, in fact, in the Group A category. The other Rover, driven by Jeff Allam and Armin Hahn, are leading the class. But the second Rover in the wall at Forest Elbow.
I'll tell you what, they must have just got rid of Steve Masterton's car in time, because it's had a lose past there and gone into the wall. There's the driver. Oops, somewhat unsteady getting out of the car. So the Group A challenge to be thrown out by the Rover team has gone from 2 to 1 car. We'll have a result on that and other information when we come back to Mount Panorama Live.